begin here, can we just have a look and marvel at my shelves? They're rainbow coloured. I decided at like 12 o'clock a couple of nights ago that I would just rainbow colour code my shelves, and I did it. It might be controversial, but I've done it, and I am glad I have done it because it looks so pretty. So pretty. Anyway, today I am going to be reviewing a book. Huzzah! Woohoo! The book that I'm going to be reviewing is A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. I'm studying The Kite Runner for my A-level, and I really enjoyed it when I first read it, so I thought, hey, let's do some wider reading. And I actually got given this by my school librarian, and she said, read it, it's amazing. And it was amazing. I have a couple of iffy bits about it that are just me because, I don't know, I picked up on them, but we'll get to those. Oh, I feel like it's a problem that A Thousand Splendid Suns is in the purple section right now, but we'll just get on with it. So, A Thousand Splendid Suns is set in Kabul in Afghanistan during the Afghanistan conflict, and it's the same kind of setting as A Kite Runner, and it's sort of all a completely different culture, which is nice to read about a different culture. And it follows the story of two young women. You have Mariam, who is this very self-depreciative and very modest and very caring person who has been brought up in a way by her mother to think that she isn't worth very much because she was an illegitimate child. And her character is very timid, and you see her sort of come out of her shell, and that's a really lovely thing to see. And then you have Lila, who is this amazingly feisty and very not stereotypically, not in the stereotypical role that women are put into in this sort of context. And it follows their struggles from getting married, arranged marriages, and having husbands that are awful, and their paths cross and they become friends. At first they don't really like each other, but eventually they become friends and they work together, and their friendship brings them through the hardships. This novel was heartbreaking. It really was. It opened my eyes to the way in which women are treated in Afghanistan or in the conflict. I'm not saying in general, it might have changed, and it probably will have changed in certain ways, but there are still many people who are treated in this really horrible, harsh way that isn't at all fair. My eyes were open to the injustice and the violence and just the general dog barking. The general not okayness. That's really not a great phrase, but I can't think of anything else to express myself. It's just not okay. This book is not for the faint-hearted. It's extremely poignant and very graphic and vivid, and at points I was truly too shocked to read on, and it might be a product of my former ignorance as to the actual... I mean, I was aware of the harsh conditions, but not until you sort of... I delved into these characters and really felt as though I was going with them, just walking a couple of paces behind them through these horrible scenarios. It really is humbling to read, and I think that's something that Khaled Hosseini is very good at doing. He makes you, as a humbled man himself, he makes you feel humbled, and he shows you what horrors people have seen and that your life really isn't that bad. It is a very different vision of Afghanistan and the whole conflict there to the very, I want to say westernised, the westernised kind of conflict portrayal that we get. I mean, sometimes, I'm not saying that we're being unjust in any way, I'm not expressing any opinion because I don't want to tread on everybody's toes, but it's a very westernised version that we are given here, and we don't necessarily see the full extent, and it's quite a sense of it is, we aren't like, it's like narcotizing dysfunction. We see it so many times on the news that we sort of go, oh, it's just another story. But these things are happening, and they're happening now, and this is what this novel made me think. My one teensy little problem with this book was that it was very similar to The Kite Runner. Not in plot, the plot was completely different, don't get me wrong, but there were a lot of phrases and things that were reused, or I don't know which one was published first. This one was published in 2007, so I don't know which one was published first, but there were a lot of phrases that were exchanged between the two novels. It was set in exactly the same place and exactly the same time, and I know it's the object and the subject that Khaled Hosseini likes to write about. I just found it a little bit taxing to read through again, because I've already read in quite a lot of detail The Kite Runner. I think had I not studied The Kite Runner in quite so much depth, I wouldn't have noticed it more in the A Thousand Splendid Suns, but I'm very aware of his style now, and so I found that a little bit repetitive. But apart from that, I really, really loved it, and I would recommend it to read, but it isn't for the faint-hearted. As I said, it is a very harrowing and very hard-hitting novel, and if you're one of those people that just can't handle that, that's fine, you don't need to read it, but I would recommend branching out if you can. But yes, wonderful book, I would recommend.